In 1943, the United States government built a secret facility in the desert of Washington state. Its mission: produce plutonium for the atomic bomb. It worked. The bombs that ended World War II were built with material from this site. But producing plutonium left behind something nobody knew how to deal with: 56 million gallons of radioactive waste buried in 177 underground tanks. Some of those tanks are leaking right now, and the bill to clean it up could reach $589 billion, with a completion date of 2091. This is the story of Hanford, America's most contaminated site, and the most expensive cleanup project in human history. The Hanford Site covers 586 square miles in southeastern Washington state, larger than the city of Los Angeles. During World War II, and through the Cold War, Hanford produced 2/3 of all the plutonium in the United States nuclear arsenal. The workers who built it had no idea what they were creating. The waste, liquid radioactive sludge, was pumped into underground storage tanks as quickly as it was produced. Safety was secondary. Speed was everything. By the time production ended in 1987, Hanford had generated 56 million gallons of radioactive waste, enough to fill 85 Olympic swimming pools. And it had been sitting in the ground for decades. Here is what the government did not tell the people of Washington state. The tanks were leaking. Single-shell tanks, the original storage containers, were never designed for permanent storage. They were built as temporary solutions in the 1940s and 1950s. 67 of them have leaked over time. While many are now empty, several are actively leaking right now. Tank T111 has been seeping 300 gallons of radioactive waste into the ground every single year since 2013. Tank B109, 560 gallons per year. A third tank, T101, is suspected of leaking 200 gallons per year. The leaking has never fully stopped, and that contamination is moving through the soil toward the Columbia River. The Columbia River supplies drinking water to communities across the Pacific Northwest. It supports one of the most important salmon fisheries in North America. And radioactive contamination is moving toward it through the ground every single year. But the leaking tanks are not the only threat. There are 1,936 capsules of cesium and strontium sitting in an aging pool at Hanford. These capsules hold 1/3 of the entire site's radioactivity. They have been sitting in water since the 1970s. If an earthquake ruptures that pool, the water drains, the capsules overheat, and the radiation release would be catastrophic. In late 2025, workers finally began moving them to safer dry storage in concrete casks. The job is now a sprint to the 2029 deadline. The clock is ticking. Here is what 56 million gallons of radioactive waste actually means. This is not just water with a warning label. Hanford's tank waste contains cesium-137, strontium-90, plutonium, chemicals so corrosive they eat through stainless steel. Some of it is solid, some is liquid, some is a thick radioactive sludge that behaves like peanut butter, and it must all be treated, transformed into a stable form, before it can be safely stored forever. The solution engineers chose vitrification, mixing the waste with molten glass at temperatures above 2,000 degrees, turning radioactive sludge into solid glass logs that will remain stable for thousands of years. It took 30 years and $30 billion just to build the plant to do this. In October 2025, it finally began operating. Now for the numbers that put this in perspective. The cleanup started in 1989. It is now 2026, 37 years in. The government has spent approximately $60 billion so far. And according to the Department of Energy's own 2025 Life Cycle Report, the remaining cost could be between $364 billion and $589 billion. The cleanup is projected to run until 2086, with long-term stewardship, monitoring, and maintenance extending until 2100. America started this cleanup when the Berlin Wall fell. It will not finish until the grandchildren of today's workers are approaching retirement. And here is where it gets worse. Washington State's Department of Ecology calculates that Hanford needs $6.15 billion per year to meet its legally mandated cleanup obligations. In January 2026, Congress approved a record budget for Hanford, $3.2 billion, the largest single-year allocation in history, and still nearly $3 billion short of what is actually needed. And consider this, one single contract, just to run the tank farms, is worth $45 billion over 10 years. That is more than Congress is currently allocating for the entire site over the same period. The math does not add up. Every year, the funding falls short. The timeline extends. The cost increases. The contamination moves closer to the river. And here is the question. I want to know what you think in the comments. America created this mess producing weapons to win the Cold War. Now it is underfunding the cleanup by $3 billion every single year. Is that acceptable? But there is progress. In October 2025, after 30 years of construction delays, Hanford's vitrification plant began processing radioactive waste for the first time. By May 2026, more than 100,000 gallons of tank waste had been successfully turned into glass. The first 100,000 gallons of 56 million. It is a start, but engineers estimate that at current rates, treating all the waste will take until the 2080s. And a debate is now raging over whether vitrification, turning waste into glass, is even the right approach for all of the material. The Government Accountability Office has identified a potentially cheaper method, grouting, mixing waste with a concrete-like material instead of glass. Grouting could save up to $210 billion. But Washington State's regulators disagree. They argue grouting is not durable enough to contain waste safely over thousands of years. The debate is still unresolved, and while it continues, the waste sits in the ground. The tanks keep leaking, and the clock keeps running. And here is the nightmare scenario nobody is talking about. Contamination in the soil can take 50 years to reach groundwater. 50 years. That means the decisions workers make today, or fail to make, will determine whether the Columbia River gets poisoned in the 2070s. Oregon's Department of Energy warned, if contamination is not found and treated now, it will show up in the river in 50 years, when it is too late to stop it. We are not just cleaning up the past. We are betting the future on choices being made right now. The Columbia River supplies drinking water to millions of people. It is home to salmon runs that indigenous tribes have depended on for thousands of years. It is one of the most important ecological and economic waterways in the American West. Hanford sits less than 10 miles from the river. Contamination is already moving through the groundwater. The cleanup is not just about removing radioactive waste. It is about protecting one of America's most vital water sources from the consequences of decisions made 80 years ago. If the cleanup succeeds, 56 million gallons of radioactive waste transformed into stable glass. Contamination stopped, the Columbia River protected, and the most dangerous legacy of the Cold War finally contained. If it doesn't, the leaking tanks continue seeping. The capsules remain at risk. The contamination reaches the river. Communities lose their water supply. A salmon fishery disappears. And America spends $589 billion, only to leave the job unfinished. Hanford is more than a cleanup project. It is a reckoning. A reckoning with what happens when a nation builds weapons without planning for the waste. When speed matters more than safety. When the problem is buried, literally, and left for future generations to solve. America is spending $589 billion, not to build something new, not to power a city, not to connect two states, but to undo what was done in the name of national security 8 decades ago. Because sometimes the most expensive projects are not the ones we plan, they are the ones we never planned to need.